On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Didn't you say that your husband went
My
to
husband met me at my cousin's birthday party, and then he went to my father.
To talk to your dad?
Exactly. And I chose him. I said yes to my husband after courting.
Oh.
Yes, I chose him. I wanted him. It wasn't that I was giving up to him like that. I wasn't. I chose him because of, well, you really want to be honest, because of his status. He has a very high status.
Oh, okay. Status. What does status mean? Like money?
It means something in our culture. I don't really have to explain it. I don't really feel comfortable explaining all of it, but
you don't want to teach us about your culture?
I'm sorry?
You don't want to teach us further about your culture?
That's not my culture. That's my personal business. I don't feel like going into that.
You just said it means something in your culture.
That's in my personal business, yes.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
No problem, Kay.
I would say when you're making that comparison and you're saying like, you're wondering why it is different in your culture, would you concede or would you at least agree that the culture you primarily come from is patriarchy, and at least in North America in particular, the culture has turned into matriarchy?
Or equality. Either matriarchy or equality, right? Could it be that in my culture the women are just miserable and we're just staying for the kids? I don't know. Now that we bring this up, it's like, what is it? Are the women actually just miserable here and they just don't talk about it? And because women have a choice in America, they choose to just say, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to either fight with the man or I'm going to leave.
Well, but I think it also goes back to what you were saying earlier. And it's crazy because I actually brought this up to my sister earlier in our conversation, is that, you talk about in your culture, when you did the video on honor and discipline, you talked about honor being an important part in your culture, and that you often say on the platform that people respect their family name, they fight for their family name, they shed blood for their family name, they die on the sword for their family name. It's not so much as the same over here in America, and especially, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not that everybody fights for their name over here.
So do you think that's the reason why it doesn't? It's kind of easier to separate because of the differences, because you can't just stop fighting.
It's a contributing factor, but I think if there was honor, there used to be a time where people were shamed, to have a baby out of wedlock, or to be hoe hopping, or to be doing all these things that would bring dishonor to the family.
What was that second phrase? To be what hopping?
Hoe hopping. You heard me.
Ameera, let me.
What was that? More phrases than anybody.
We doing the thesaurus, bro. Come on and put that publishing budget together, man.
So, Ameera, you don't know anyone in your culture that has been remarried?
Yes, my husband remarried. I'm his second wife.
Yeah. So why didn't that work? Not to get all your business.
There was a very big reason. I don't really want to go into
well, you
details,
don't have to.
but it wasn't just like, oh, we don't get along. It was a big issue.
Yeah. So that's what I just say that because it happens everywhere. And like I said, your husband, you're his second wife. It didn't work out. Did they have kids?
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying. But it wasn't like this. It wasn't like, oh, we just don't get along and we keep fighting.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The reason that I see it here in America is like, and not just you, Courtney, I'm not just talking about you. I'm just talking about the situation. The situation is like, we can't stop fighting. I want the child to grow up in a healthy environment. So the best thing is for us to separate so the child can grow up in a healthy environment. But what I was saying is, it's just not common on this end that you see that women and men just say, we can't stop fighting. So we're going to just separate. I don't know why. And it just makes me wonder, are we just unhappy and we're just, you know what I mean? Are we just unhappy and we're just going along with it because of the family? Or is it that the women are more submissive and...
Well, yeah. So, and I say that to preference what I said earlier is that you know, we don't know everyone's situation. And then some things happen, like you said, with your husband, you know, you're his second wife and he had kids. However, it didn't work out. And not to get in your business, but again, that's a situational thing. So it happens everywhere. And for us to just say it's because we're arguing so much, that's why we left. I mean, we can't necessarily say that. There's no stats, there's no statistics that says that. We know understand that things are breaking up, but everyone is different. Your husband is different. His situation is different. My situation is different. So it happens everywhere.
I understand.
Mhm.
I have a question too. One time, I think it was maybe like a few shows ago, you said that like a woman with kids or maybe a woman with a high body count, don't quote me, but it was something like that, might end up as the wife of a man that had been married before, that maybe had been divorced, had kids. So like,
Mhm.
why are you in the situation you're in terms of being the wife of a man that was married before? You're his second wife.
Mhm.
He has children that are not your biological children.
Mhm.
So like, why did you end up in that situation? Because I heard you speak of it kind of, you know, I don't want to say maybe negatively as it
Yeah,
relates.
well, actually, I was trying to say as a second wife. That's what I meant, like as an actual second wife with a man that typically, like you say, the man will have his first wife. A lot of women, like in that situation I was talking, end up in as a second wife in the marriage. I didn't mean to say like divorce like that, but also my husband. You have to understand, he's a rare breed. He's not just a man who's in that kind of situation. My husband, I'm not. I don't want to say too much about him like that, but my husband is a very high value man. He's not just,
Well, but why
you know,
would you
and
as
I
a
chose.
why would you as a woman who I mean, I don't know. You don't have kids like out of wedlock. You don't have a high body count, I'm assuming. Tell me if I'm wrong. All these things. Why would you end up with the man that you said would usually end up with women that were in those more quote
My
unquote?
husband would never end up with a woman that was in that kind of situation. You have to understand, my husband is of a different level. He's not. He would never end up with a woman who have a bunch of kids or who had a high body count. He just wouldn't, just because of his family and his status. He's a very high status man. He's not. He wouldn't end up in that kind of situation.
Okay, so
So
it's not that necessarily.
and another, I just want to finish my point. Another thing is that me and my husband, I courted with my husband, and I saw something that I didn't see in any other person. I mean, this wasn't the first person who tried to marry me. You have to understand. I chose my husband because this man showed me something that other I'd never seen before, and
What did he
I
show
wanted to
you?
be the wife. I mean, that's between us, but that's something that I saw in my husband. So I chose him. I didn't mind that he had been married because I understood what happened. It was a huge thing that happened. And that's a very understandable reason why they separated because, you know, and like I said, it is very rare. But
Oh, I thought your
yeah,
husband went to your dad or something during a party and asked. Didn't you say that your husband went
my
to
husband met me at my cousin's birthday party and then he went
asked
to my
and went to
father.
talk to your dad?
Exactly. And I chose him. I said yes to my husband after courting.
Oh,
Yes, I chose him. I wanted him. It wasn't that I was giving up to him like that. I wasn't. I chose him because of, well, you really want to be honest, because of his status. He has a very high status.
oh, okay. Status. What does status mean? Like money?
It means something in our culture. I don't really have to explain it. I
You
don't
don't want
really
to
feel
talk
comfortable
about it.
explaining all of it, but
You don't want
my
to teach us
husband,
about your culture?
I'm sorry?
You don't want to teach us further about your culture?
That's not my culture. That's my personal business,
You
and I
just
don't
said
feel
that
like
it
going
means,
into that.
you just said it means something in your culture.
That's in my personal business, yes.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
No problem, Kay.